Chapter 6, Sleeping in Forgetfulness. Danny, wait! I ran down the hall to catch up with him, grateful I'd gotten to school early enough to see him. Given how busy the interns were, this might be my only chance before the holiday. Well, it's only 2 more days. He stopped and waited for me, seemingly amused by the fact I was out of breath after a single run down the hallway.
Good morning.
I just wanted to see how you were. After what happened, I didn't get much of an update.
Mozzie didn't update you last night.
No, he didn't, thank you very much.
Thanks for letting him know what was up.
I didn't know what else to do. I was relieved he wasn't upset about that.
Well, in any case, I never caught up with that wolf. As you know, I don't really change on command very well yet. Whoever it was outran me pretty easily. By the time Mozzie found me, they were long gone.
Darn.
Well, it could have been a curious passerby. We don't know it was someone who meant harm.
You did say there were other werewolves in the area.
And just because they like to keep to themselves most of the time, it doesn't mean they don't occasionally like to check out what other people are up to.
I'm just glad you weren't hurt. I was really worried. You running off like that is not good for my blood pressure.
Sorry about that.
Well, it turned out fine, I guess.
Yeah, though I definitely think you need to avoid being outside alone. Feels like some tensions are heating up, and until it's resolved, it's just better to not be somewhere you could encounter one of us.
There are 3 of you at school. Does that mean I get to skip class?
Very funny. No. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm one of the good guys.
I did notice that. He laughed as we went up to the club together.
Anyway, Velos wanted to talk to you.
Oh?
Yeah, I think it's about helping out. He has us organizing and cataloging all the information we've collected on drifters and gates and things.
Sounds fun.
Hey, you volunteered to help.
That I did. I was honestly surprised at how easily Velos pulled us all out of class to help with the agency's work, all on the basis of some sort of legitimate extracurricular club activity. I suspected that it was allowed only because the school administration and quite a few teachers were also cryptics. At any rate, he had a lot of us sitting at a table organizing all the data gathered into related piles. Those that were assumed to be drifters, those that were sleepers, apparently a group of cryptics that slept until the magic overflow increased enough for them to wake up. There were also a few other categories, such as places that were high risk. I was learning a lot, and, well, despite the others complaining about it being boring, I was kind of having fun. I pulled another sheet out of the main pile, eyebrows growing up when I saw the label on it. Alfred?
Yeah, some of the agents name them because it's easier to keep them straight, but they officially just get a number.
Well, he's creepy.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on him. He's kind of been seen all over, almost like he's looking for something. Not that we know it's a he, really.
So he goes in the pile of potential threats?
Yup!
Goody. I was grateful that pile was rather small. It seemed like most of the drifters were pretty innocuous. That was a relief. I pulled another sheet out of the pile, tipping my head to the side at the photo there. It was very familiar, more so since this place had been in my thoughts a lot the past few days. That hill. This place is... Ugh. I doubled over, clutching my head as a wave of dizziness and pain washed over me and the music faded out to nothing.
Nora!
I tipped sideways out of my chair as the world around me faded to black. There were sounds of chairs scraping back. Allie and Danny calling my name. But soon, even that faded completely. Ugh.
I think she's coming too.
Nora?
What happened?
Thank goodness! You suddenly blacked out in the library.
Where?
We moved you to the club room. You were only out for a few minutes. Though I did get to witness that glamour fade I've heard so much about.
Congratulations.
Would you like to explain what happened?
I don't know. I just was looking at one of the data files, and I guess my brain decided to take a bit of a nap. I mean, not without making my eyeballs feel like someone was squeezing the life out of them and everything, but I rubbed my head as Danny helped me sit up.
You are still in pain, then?
Yeah, pretty bad headache.
The file you were holding was of a suspected fairy mound near...
I winced as pain lanced through my head. Velos sat back, regarding me quietly.
As I thought. You can't think about that place without pain, can you?
No, not really. I was actually telling Danny about it recently, though. That place feels like... I'm forgetting something about it. Spencer and I used to play there as kids.
It appears that some of your memories regarding it have been sealed.
Sealed?
Correct. It's the most common way of wiping memories. They aren't deleted so much as sealed up to prevent access. Headaches are one symptom that arises when one tries to access sealed memories.
But who sealed my memories?
Presumably, the residents of the hill. Perhaps you encountered them and they didn't wish you to remember those events.
Does that mean that my other memories are also sealed? The ones from when I went missing?
Perhaps. Do you experience pain when you attempt to remember those things?
No.
Well, pain isn't always present. Typically, pain occurs if the attempts to retrieve the memories damage the seal in question. As the seal degrades, it causes pain, almost like a defense mechanism.
I rubbed my head anxiously.
I wasn't aware you had a connection with the fairy mound at all, though I suppose it makes sense since you lived in close proximity. It's an area we tend to keep a close watch on, though we had thought that mound was dormant. We may need to renew investigations of it, though I'll admit we tread very lightly where the Fae are concerned.
Is it possible to, break the seal so I can remember what happened?
I could do it potentially, but if it's painful now, you can imagine that my forcefully breaking the seal won't be pleasant. It will also require a rather invasive look into your memories. I suspect you aren't ready for something like that.
Well, when you word it that way...
In any case, this isn't the best time. At the very least, I'd like to look into this a little more before deciding how to progress. For the time being, it might be best for you to return home and rest.
I think I'm fine, though. It's just a little headache.
You passed out. That's not a little headache.
Danny's right. I think you should take this more seriously.
I know I had encouraged you to examine your own memories for clues, but it might be best to forego more forays into your memories for the time being. I hadn't suspected we might be dealing with memory seals. Had I known, I would have encouraged more caution.
I don't think it's your fault or anything. I mean, it's my life. I should be able to, remember random stuff without fear of knocking myself unconscious.
At any rate, I believe I shall still have Miss Fisher take you home for the day, especially if you are still recovering from the headache. It would be best if you spend the day resting and getting your mind away from this subject.
Fine. I still think it's an overreaction.
Be that as it may, I would rather err on the side of caution than risk another blackout.
He stood and, still looking distressingly worried, returned to the library. Aw, he does care. Well then.
Are you sure you're going to be okay?
I'm pretty sure I'm already okay. It's not that big a deal.
It is that big a deal. I'll make sure she gets home okay, though.
Text me, okay?
I will. He reluctantly went back to the library as well.
You really scared the crap out of me. You need to stop with this fainting stuff. It is not good for my blood pressure.
And everyone's blood pressure is no good around here. I am so sorry. I didn't know I had sealed up memories that were going to knock me unconscious if I tried to think about them. You remember it too, right? That hill? I know Spencer and I took you there.
Stop thinking about it!
The more I try not to think about it, the more I think about it.
Let's just get you home for now.
Good grief, I'm not some kind of invalid. I stood up carefully, grimacing as a wave of dizziness washed over me. Uh-huh. Allie quickly wrapped an arm around me to help steady me a little.
You don't have to be an invalid to need to take it easy.
Fair enough.
Come on. Look at it this way. You get the afternoon off. Teacher sanctioned. That's a good thing, right?
Depends on if you ask me or my grades.
Oh, whatever. Your afternoon courses are light anyway. You'll be fine. Come on, let's go down. We can take the elevator if you want.
You have an elevator in your school? Nice. Haha. No way. I took the elevator once. Never again. I don't trust them. Looking at you, the letter.
It's not that bad.
It was terrifying. There were weird sounds in the shaft, like something trying to get in.
Okay, that part is pretty creepy.
So, no elevator.
Fine, no elevator. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not getting Spencer to drive me. Spencer hasn't driven me in ages. Forget that. Just let me grab my things. They brought my book bag into the club room. I just had to shove a few books in it quickly and make sure I had my phone and other things. Allie and I started out of the club and down the stairs. She was hovering next to me as if she thought I was going to collapse in a delicate heap at any time. It was sort of cute. She could be such a mother hen at times. We were pretty quiet as we left the school parking lot. My head was still hurting a bit, but I still had to text Mom to let her know I'd be home early. That, of course, sent her into a panic. I suspected she was going to be waiting to ambush me when we got there. Ugh, fun. I rested my head against the window, watching the trees pass. Maybe she'll make you more bacon and waffles. Hey, Allie?
Yeah? Everything okay over there?
I rolled my eyes. It's fine. I was actually just thinking. You mentioned that during the magic overflow, there are some gates and stuff that open up?
Yeah?
Does that include gates to Fairy? She shot me a curious look.
Actually, yeah. There are a few stationary gates, and one really irritating floating gate.
Floating gate?
It's one that moves around. We never know exactly where it's going to open. It's not just that. Just so you know, Fairy has a pretty significant overlap on Pine Hollow. Normally, even though it overlaps, there's a barrier that keeps Fairy separate from the real world. That weakens during overflow, and the boundaries of Fairy expand a lot. Why are you asking?
I don't know. I was just thinking about stuff.
Thinking about stuff is why you passed out earlier.
I was just thinking about the sleepwalking thing and what might be driving it. What if it's some weird instinctive need to get back to Fairy? Like, what if I've been unconsciously searching for one of these gates? This is great. Girl, I am so proud of you for not only thinking about this, but actually speaking out loud your thoughts to your best friend who knows a lot about this. Girl, I could hug you right now. She blinked in surprise.
Well, that could be possible. What made you think of that?
I don't know. Just a combination of a lot of things. Ewan mentioned how Fae have a lot of weird compulsions. So I guess that was just kind of naturally where my thoughts went.
Well, I mean, we can't say for sure that isn't it. We can't say for sure that it is, either.
But if it's something like that, then it may be a permanent issue.
Or, even if it is some unconscious attempt to get to Fairy, it could simply be exacerbated by the upcoming overflow. And you could see the sleepwalking diminish or go away completely after the holiday.
I hope so. Sleepwalking, sealed memories, random disappearances, uncontrollable glamour. I'm not sure how many more of these things I can take.
It'll all work out. I'm sure of it.
I wish I could be sure of it. We were quiet the rest of the way home as I mulled over what she said. I'm fine, I promise. You're not fine. You passed out. I skipped breakfast, that's all. How does skipping breakfast one time cause you to faint? You've never had issues with fainting before. Look, everyone has been under stress with this move. It was bound to catch up with me at some point. It's not a big deal. I wasn't hurt. Still, I think we should schedule an appointment just to be sure. Fine. But it's a waste of time. I'm completely okay. Are you sure? Yes, I had a snack when I came home and I feel way better. Not totally true, but close enough. I want you to go rest until dinner. And if you're feeling at all out of sorts, dizziness, headache, whatever, you let me know right away. Fine. I finally had managed to convince Mom I wasn't dying. With some effort. Have we ever been back here when the sun's going down? It's really pretty. Which didn't mean she wasn't still freaking out. And now Dad was home to freak out with her. Those two. So I was taking refuge on the back porch, watching the sunset through the trees. I sighed, watching my breath fog the air. The temperature was dropping fast. I should head in. The door opened behind me, and someone stepped onto the porch. I assumed it was Mom about to tell me to go inside, so I was surprised when Spencer spoke. Mom wants me inside. I figured. I stood and stretched, glancing back at him. Spencer, do you... I hesitated, unsure if I should say this. Do you remember that hill behind our old house? A drop of pain blossomed behind one eye, but I tried to ignore it. Spencer, still standing in the half-open door, looked a little startled at the mention of the hill. Oh. I'm wondering now, if we had decided to have Spencer drive us, would she have pondered those same thoughts aloud, but to Spencer? Like, asked him about the hill while they were driving? And maybe they would have gotten into, like, an accident or something? Or maybe he would have, like, just thrown her out of the car and drove off. And then she would have gotten eaten by a wolf. I don't know. Now I'm just like, oh, I've just been thinking about it lately. I keep feeling like there's something I'm forgetting about it. Spencer chewed his lip for a minute, then looked away. I don't know what you're talking about. Mom wants you to come inside. I already know that. He disappeared into the kitchen, leaving me alone again. A distant howl went up in the distance. I shivered and retreated back inside, hoping Danny wasn't planning to go out tonight. In an early morning dream, I was flying. Cold air was rushing over my face and through my hair. Below me were flickering lights, dancing gracefully as they weaved in and out of the trees. Part of me had a vague inkling that I was dreaming, but the other part was just enjoying the feeling of wind in my hair. I could hear a voice, soft, raspy, enchanting. A voice that was both comforting and frightening in its familiarity. I could only catch snatches of what it was saying.
Where the wave of moonlight glosses the dim gray sands with light, weaving olden dances, mingling hands and mingling glances.
Another poem? I felt like I should know which one, but wrapped in sleep as I was, the title eluded me. A cold hand slipped into mine as I flew along and glanced next to me. For just a moment, it was like looking in a mirror. But then a pair of icy blue eyes flashed in the moonlight, and the other me smiled. Okay, I think we skipped a day? We skipped Saturday. It's Samhain time! I awoke with a jolt, staring at the empty ceiling as I blinked in the morning sun. Well, I will say, those herbs have been doing their job, because our girl has not woken up in the woods again. Another dream. I used to dream about running or flying through the forest a lot as a child. This one was a little different, though. Those eyes. Regardless, I was just grateful to wake up in my own bed instead of outside. I sat up, rubbing at my face. The words from my dream were still playing in my head. Mingling hands and mingling glances. I felt like I should know the next line. I thought about it as I unconsciously rubbed my fingers together, trying to rid myself of the lingering sensation of her cold hand. I didn't know why those dreams were so unsettling. They weren't particularly frightening. What was that poem again? It was definitely familiar. I groaned softly and stumbled out of bed, still half asleep. My hand knocked against the glass jar on the table, sending it rolling to the edge. I hastily grabbed it and set it upright. Just touching it burned my fingers faintly. At least Allie's temporary solution to the sleepwalking seemed to be working. I'd woken myself up trying to cross the threshold. Perhaps that's what sparked the dream I'd had after falling asleep again. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but sometimes in those moments it felt like there was someone else in my head pushing me forward. It was a creepy sensation, and one I didn't wish to dwell on. At any rate, I picked up the nullifying agent and crept to the door, giving the hallway a peek before sprinkling a little of it on the floor. Sprinkling herbs around my room was not easy to do without being noticed, and that little brown house spirit that roamed around seemed decidedly displeased about the whole thing. But I'd still seen it in my room, so clearly it had a way in and out that didn't involve walking through the door. I returned the jar to my bedside table and moved the curtain aside to look out. It was clear and sunny. I was sort of expecting to wake up to general mayhem on Halloween, especially considering how many stray cryptics had been loitering in town yesterday, but it looked like a normal morning out there. No rampant ghosts, fairies, or weird things running around the neighborhood. At least not yet. I was still a bit worried about my glamour spell slipping off in front of my family, so my plans for the day involved doing my best to avoid them. That was one problem I really needed a solution to. Allie didn't seem to have an herbal concoction for that. When I went downstairs, Mom and Dad were in their room talking. I quickly poured myself some coffee and grabbed a muffin from the pantry. Breakfast of champions. And teens who want to avoid their families. I was starting up the back stairs when I heard Mom calling.
Nora? Is that you?
Yeah, was just getting a muffin. I think I'm going to be painting for a while. She appeared in the kitchen before I could escape. I should have known I wouldn't be able to get away that easily.
How are you feeling?
I'm fine. No dizziness, no nausea, nothing. I told you it was just because I hadn't eaten. She still didn't look convinced, and I felt kind of bad for not being able to tell her the truth. But the truth would freak her out way more than the current lie.
Please take better care of yourself, Nora.
I'm trying. I held up the muffin as evidence of my new and improved self-care.
A muffin is not a good breakfast. I'm going to be making brunch in a bit, and I want you downstairs eating it when it's ready.
Aye, Captain. I shot her a smile and headed back upstairs, grateful she allowed it without any more lectures. I spent some time curled up, reading and eating my muffin. Yesterday, Mom had insisted I stay in bed pretty much the entire day. It was agonizingly dull. But I had been obedient because I was still hoping to go around with some of the others today, and I had to convince her I was fine. I picked up my phone and pulled up Allie's info. Hey, I'm still helping today, right?
Well, Velos didn't say you shouldn't, so I guess so. Danny and Elliot said you could go around with them this afternoon.
Yay!
How are you feeling, by the way?
Fine. I'm fine. You guys worry way too much.
You don't worry enough.
Meh.
Anyway, keep me updated.
Sure. Well, I was glad for that anyway. It was kind of a small thing, but I'd been looking forward to it, and it would be disappointing if it was cancelled because I'd fainted. As always, since I had plans later in the day, it felt like time was crawling by. Bored, I wandered downstairs in search of something to do. No one was around. Dad was out in the backyard, possibly trying to murder himself with power tools. Mom was somewhere plotting brunch and gleefully waiting for evening when children might show up seeking candy. I had no idea where Spencer was. I didn't care much, to be honest. I downed a glass of water and looked around the kitchen, wondering what I could do to occupy myself for a couple of hours. Draw, maybe? When I noticed the riveting task of taking out the garbage was awaiting some generous soul to descend from the heavens and whisk the bag out to the bins. I must be really bored if I'm considering taking the trash out for entertainment. Ugh. Mom was still going to ask one of us to do it later anyway. And while it would probably be Spencer, since she was still worried about me, meh. It gave me an excuse to go outside, so maybe I'd just take a walk or something. Then again, maybe not if there were wolves lurking around. I pulled the bag out, hoping someone noticed my generosity at some point. The little brownie walked through, chattering to itself. I gave it a disparaging look. You're supposed to help us with stuff like this, you know? It looked my way, and I swear it stuck its little brown tongue out. I like you. I made a face at it as it skipped out of the room. Ugh, fairies. I tied up the bag and started outside with it. It was a beautiful day, just a little breezy and cool, but sunny. The tingling feeling was definitely a bit stronger outside, though. I made a face. It didn't hurt, but it was definitely annoying. As I was putting the bag in the bin, there was a large enough gust of wind that I decided to move the bins behind the fence a bit so they wouldn't blow over if it picked up toward evening. I paused, listening as I thought I heard the sound of a voice on the breeze. When I looked down the street, I was surprised to see two very familiar figures walking my way. Oh, hey, you two. One lifted a hand, waving at me as they approached. I don't trust that smile for a minute.
Hey, little red.
Ugh, they still call me that. It seemed like it was going to stick permanently.
Fancy seeing you here.
Did he really just use the word fancy?
Didn't know you lived here, little red.
Well, I do.
So that's why you and Dan are so close.
Well, I don't know that's the exact reason. What are you two doing here? You live in this neighborhood?
Yeah, Derek lives here. I'm staying with him.
Is it okay for you guys to be walking around?
We can't stay holed up forever. What happens, happens.
Sean moved closer and leaned down, a smile on his face.
You're worried about us. That's cute.
Yes, I'm worried. So what?
You know Dan's not immune to this stuff just because he plays human.
Well, I want him to be careful too. But, and no offense, you guys seem like you get in more trouble than he does.
I'm not going to hide. I know I'm not well liked, but it's not my fault. I finally managed to.
He shook his head.
I'm one of them now, and I'm not going to hide.
One of them now.
Either way, there's no need to worry about us.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure how bright these two actually were. I couldn't help but worry. At least I knew Danny was smart and responsible.
Anyway, see you later, Red.
He waved as the two of them started off in the direction of the bridge. That was an oddly pleasant conversation. I watched them go, frowning. I'd never seen them walking around before. I had no idea they lived so close. Huh. I wondered what all this stuff was about Sean not being liked. He was also the one that got beat up the other day. Why him specifically? Infected versus natural born? There was so much weird drama in the werewolf community. I turned away, heading back inside, and nearly jumped out of my skin when there was a sudden crash behind me. I glanced over my shoulder to see the trash bin on its side, the bag I'd just put in it half fallen from the opening. There was no way the wind did that. I looked around nervously and slowly went to go right the bin. I froze when I heard what sounded like a whisper. Is it that drifter? Okay. I quickly shoved the bag back in and righted the bin. There was a rustle in the bushes next to the edge of the fence, and suddenly a black blur was rushing at me. Well, hello, Brenna. I let out a little scream as I staggered back, staring at the black and white cat that had hopped out of the bushes. She arched up, then darted off down the street, leaving me staring. Jeez, is that what knocked over the bin? Is this because I tried to help you pick up trash the other day?
Nora?
Oh, hello. I stifled another scream and whirled around, coming face to face with Danny. Don't do that!
Sorry. You okay?
Just... yes. Elliot's stupid cat scared the life out of me just now. I'm fine.
I heard voices. Thought Elliot was out here.
No, just me.
So you're still on for tonight?
Yeah, I verified with Allie earlier.
Glad to hear it.
She said I'd be going with you and Elliot?
Yeah, we'll stop by and pick you up later. We just have some short patrols to do before sunset, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
You sure you're up for it?
Yeah, it'll be fine. You guys worry way too much. He poked my forehead playfully.
Sometimes I think you don't worry enough.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Allie said the same thing.
Then it must be true.
Nora, honey, are you out? Oh, there you are. I was just taking the trash out. You don't have to do that. Your dad... Mom, I'm fine. I just want to make sure you don't have another fainting spell. How can I? You keep forcing food in me and ranting about low blood sugar. I didn't force food in you. Literally only because I refused to let you shove that cookie in my mouth. Danny laughed, listening to the two of us bicker.
Mrs. Lewis.
Oh, you don't have to call me that. Just call me Courtney. Mrs. Lewis makes me sound so old. You are not a word, young lady. I will ground you for that remark. I snickered quietly.
I was hoping you'd let Nora hang out with me and Elliot this afternoon.
Oh?
Elliot and I do some volunteer work in the neighborhood. Just making sure everything is ready and safe for any kids going around tonight. We invited Nora to walk around with us if that's okay.
I shot him a thankful look. The way she was going on, I'd been starting to worry she might protest if I tried to leave the house. Volunteer work? That's so sweet of you. I'm sure it'll be okay if she's with the two of you.
We'll definitely look after her. No worries.
Well, I guess it'll be fine as long as she doesn't stay out too late. And as long as she rests up beforehand.
In that case, I'll let you two get back inside.
It was so nice to see you. Okay. Let's go inside so I can go back on bed rest. I pushed her back to the house. I'll see you later, Danny. He waved and laughed as I dragged Mom back toward the house. She leaned over, shooting me a tiny grin. Mom! I think I discovered who I'm going to be when I grow up, and I'm okay with this.
both of them. Love triangle?
Oh my god, no! My face went hot, knowing Danny probably heard that clearly.